This is the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Dory Stewart.
Welcome back to another episode of the FXBG Neighbors Podcast, where we share the stories of our favorite local brands. I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today. We've got Renee Dunn joining us, and she is with Elevage Digital. Renee, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and especially on Global Accessibility Awareness Day.
What a great day for this interview. So I'm looking forward to learning all about you and your business and why this day is so important to you. So let's start there. Share with us, what is Elevage Digital?
Yeah, thank you. So Elevage Digital, we help small businesses, nonprofits, and local governments reduce their legal liability and increase their customer and user base by improving their website accessibility. So we build websites, we do website accessibility audits, and remediate existing websites to make them more accessible.
Amazing. So I just learned what that meant. And a lot of that is thanks to you. I was doing my research and reading up. And for the listeners who don't understand what accessibility in websites means, give us just an overview of what that means.
Sure. Yeah. So a lot of people will refer to it as like ADA compliance, Americans with Disabilities Act. That's I tend to stay away from that for a number of reasons, but that's kind of the shorthand. So basically making sure that, as many people as possible can use your website, regardless of their ability. And, so if people have vision issues or motor issues, or, if someone has, epilepsy or something like that, right? You don't have a lot of flashing and strobe motion effects on your site that could be problematic for them, right? So it's trying to code and design your site in a way, like I said, that really just makes it usable for as many people as possible.
Amazing. So I think that it's so wonderful that we're able to do that. And so on the user side, tell me about how that works. If you are someone who has a disability, what does that look like? I always see this button in the corner of a website screen.
Yeah. So, depending on people's ability, right, you may use a website in a different way, right? So people who are blind, they will use a screen reader, right? So it's a piece of software that will read out the content of the website, and depending on how the website is coded, it'll tell them like this is an image, or this is a link, or this is a button, or something like that. For certain users, we're all used to kind of using a mouse, right, to interact with a website, but not everybody does that. Sometimes people only use their keyboard. And so, a website needs to be coded a specific way to provide that level of support. Using colors on your site that have a high enough contrast so that if someone is colorblind or if they have low vision, right, they can still perceive the content. So it's a lot of different things that go into it.
So interesting. It's so interesting. So I want to learn more about you. Tell me about your background and how did you get into this?
Yeah. So I graduated from Mary Washington and started working up in DC doing IT support for a government relations firm. And during the slow months, like if you're doing government relations in August, Congress is out of session. And so there's not really a whole lot going on. So I started teaching myself how to build websites. And, this was long before you had these like drag and drop website builders or vibe coding, like none of that stuff existed. So I was just creating websites from scratch, handwriting code. And so then started working as a web developer for a agency that was focused on like large national nonprofits, right? So I was building these like very large, complex websites But you still had to make them, easy for the user, for the front end user, and also easy for non-technical staff to be able to update them. And then switched to a different agency that was more focused on smaller nonprofits who, they don't have the big budgets, but, they still need a good quality website. And I really enjoyed that, the more kind of, mission-driven, small organizations. But the whole time, like, no one's talking about accessibility. This was not, these weren't, this wasn't showing up in the requirements. This wasn't showing up in, web developer best practices. Like, it wasn't a thing. And so I got out of web development for a little bit, had a brief kind of second career in a completely unrelated field. But then in 2022, came back, started Elevage Digital, and participated in something called WordPress Accessibility Day. And, that's really when my eyes sort of got open to just the extent of, these accessibility problems that exist, like, almost ubiquitously across the internet. Really kind of saw, like, how many people are being excluded from, web-based services because of these problems. And, and the number of businesses that are being sued because their websites are not accessible. And, so that was really sort of like the pivotal point for me. And I have always sort of been drawn to the, like, bringing structure in order to chaos kind of thing. And so, and creating an accessible website, it's very complex. It's very detail oriented. It's very nuanced. And so this just sort of felt like a really natural fit for me. And, kind of my skill set. And so, so that's really kind of how I got started into, focusing much more on the website accessibility, doing the audits, fixing existing sites. And then, like I said, when I build sites now, all of this stuff is just baked into the process. And then I just recently got my certified professional of website accessibility certification from the International Association of Accessibility Professionals. So I was really happy about that.
Amazing. You are you're a very important part of a business's team, building their website and keeping them out of trouble. So tell me more about that. So are small businesses really being sued?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so last year alone, there was about a little over 5,000 lawsuits. And that was a pretty significant increase from the year before. And what we've already seen this year is, 2026 looks like it's on par to break last year's number.
Wow.
So there's, unfortunately, a lot of sites that do get sued. You mentioned the little icon down in the corner. Unfortunately, those tools, they have some very slick marketing, but they often cannot do all of the things that they claim to do. And so about 25% of the sites that are being sued have those tools on them. And so it's really unfortunate that, people are sort of learning the hard way that, that these tools aren't doing kind of everything that they claim that they do.
Wow. I bet you are just dying to shout it from the rooftop, like, hey, like, how do you keep yourself from not visiting every website and contacting the owner, like, hey, you don't want to get sued.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's I know. It's hard. And because, most of the time it's like people, they're doing this because they think like, oh, I'm doing a good thing, right? And not realizing, like I said, these tools have some very slick marketing and and it's like, yeah, you're a small business owner. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of time thinking about, this really, like I said, it's complex and it's there's a lot to it. And right. So you've got other things that you want to try to worry about. So if someone is promising you that they're going to, fix everything for you with a couple lines of code. I mean, I get it. I understand why, why people do it.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're a small business owner and you're listening to this and you think you think you're doing the right thing, what are some steps that business owners can take to define or to find out
Yeah.
if they are compliant?
So there's a handful of free tools out there that you can like just put in your website address and it'll do a quick scan. And it'll look for things like, do your images have alt text? Are you using colors that have a high enough contrast? So it'll find some of the big kind of easy things. None of the automated tools, unfortunately, can really test they test for about maybe 30-ish% of the various requirements for accessibility. And so the problem is, you really do need to do manual testing to really, look for those other things that just automated testing can't find. But like I said, there are some tools out there that can get you started. And then once you get past a certain point, you really do need to, kind of have a manual audit.
Gotcha. And so you are certified in all of this. And so if someone, doesn't want to risk it and use one of those free tools and they want to make sure and they want to work with you, what does it look like if someone comes to you and wants to work with you and they need their website fixed? What is that process like?
Yeah, so usually we'll start with an audit, right? So doing the so a little bit of the automated testing, but like I said, really kind of diving in with screen readers, with just doing straight kind of trying to use the website with keyboard. And so typically what I'll do is review the homepage, obviously, because that's one of the main things that someone's going to come to. And if it's an e-commerce site, then we test, the whole user flow in terms of, from the product page all the way through to the checkout. E-commerce sites can tend to be a little problematic. If it's not an e-commerce site, then we, pick a handful of kind of key pages, key templates that they have throughout the site and, just do a really thorough testing, just to kind of see, where the problems are. And then from there, create, a prioritized list of things that need to be fixed, what's going to have the most impact. So, those types of things, what are the biggest blockers? What are the things that really prevent someone from fully using the site, trying to address those first, and then kind of just work through the issue list as there is time and budget to do so.
Is it easier to just start from scratch?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's always easier to build the site with accessibility baked in from the beginning, right? Don't wait to do it as like, oh, we're just going to do it as part of the QA phase at the end of the building of the site. Like, you really have to start from the very beginning, thinking about the design, the color choices, the font choices, how your content is structured, like all of that. It really has to be thought, incorporated from the beginning.
Interesting. Yeah. And so if someone has a website that maybe is problematic and isn't too complicated, meaning it's not e-commerce, there's not, a whole lot of things, then probably starting from scratch and just completely redesigning it, and then you just transfer over the domain?
Yeah. So, we can, basically, like I said, we would kind of rethink through the whole design, like I said, color choices, font choices, how the pages are built. Because it is a combination of the underlying code, the content, and the design. It's all of those three things together. Certain, I build my websites on WordPress. Certain tools produce better underlying code from the beginning than other tools. So it's really about, like I said, literally starting from the bones of the site and working up.
A lot of local small business owners need you, Renee. Oh my goodness. So, what is something that you wish the listeners knew about Elevage Digital?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of touched on it. I mean, we really do focus on, listen, fixing the underlying code, fixing the design, fixing the content. Not trying to find, these sort of shortcut, quick fix, gimmicky type solutions. I mean, it's really about, fixing the underlying, like listen, literally fixing the underlying structure, doing it right. And, as opposed to, like I said, trying to use an overlay or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, if the listeners want to fix their website, if they need a new website, or if they just want to ask you a question, how can they find you?
Yeah. So, the best place is the website. So it's elevagedigital.com. Or you can just email me directly at Renee, Renee, at elevagedigital.com.
Amazing. Renee, thank you so much for joining me on the
Thank you for having
podcast
me.
and teaching us about accessibility in websites. I know I learned so much, and I appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to fxbgneighborspodcast.com.